tech fatigue. I'm Romain Dillet, writer at TechCrunch. I've been writing quite a lot, actually. So I think you guys like metrics because you're entrepreneurs. So my personal metrics, I wrote something like 1,500 articles. It's pretty hard to realize what it means. It's the equivalent of 10 books. Not good quality books, but the equivalent of 10 books. I drink a lot of coffee, and I receive thousands of emails, mostly pitches, every day. And I've probably written something like 10 posts since Monday. So that's quite a lot. And I tend to see a lot of startups. I tend to see what's coming up, what's going to be big, and what's going to fail. A couple of days ago, I was on this very rooftop in Stockholm. I called my mom, and I could call her for free because the European Union is ending roaming charges, and it felt something like magic, really, because you can call anyone who is thousands of kilometers away from you, and it's not going to cost you anything. And when you think about it, this is technology, but we don't even think about it because it's just a phone we have in our pocket, and we're used to it. But it's pretty big. If you go back in time to the 90s and you say that to someone, he or she is going to think you're crazy. Many people say that I live in the future. What I mean by that is that I get to see new innovations before they even come out. When I write about something, it usually means that I talked to the person behind it who made this thing. I usually play with the iPhone before it's even released. I usually play with new phones, new tablets. I tried out VR headsets before they were available to everyone, and things like that. So I should be excited about this kind of stuff. But how do I feel about tech today? I feel this way. What I mean by that is that everything feels silly, derivative. It sounds like nothing is innovating. Nobody is innovating anymore. Facebook now, it's just copying Snapchat. They have like some big plans. The slide that you can see behind my crappy Photoshop is something that Facebook put up at their developer conference called F8. And they really believe that in the next 10 years, they're going to build new connectivity with drones, satellites, lasers, and stuff like that. But what we actually see as customers is that they're copying Snapchat. And it's the same for all big tech companies. If you look at what Apple announced earlier this week, the new AR framework, it's exactly the same thing as Facebook announced at F8 for Instagram and Messenger. Exactly the same thing as Snapchat announced as well. So everybody is doing augmented reality. Now you can have a fake cup of coffee on a desk and move around, and it's like magic. And I got to say, it's pretty impressive. But nobody told me why I should care in the first place. I don't see the point of AR. I don't see the point of VR. I don't see the point of many innovations. I know I sound like a cranky old man, but bear with me for a second because I'm pretty excited about a lot of things as well. So the hot new trends. We have artificial intelligence, virtual reality, self-driving cars, cryptocurrencies. Do you realize that what's in common with all these trends is that it's been the same exact trends for the past 3 or 4 years? Everybody has been saying that artificial intelligence or VR are the future. For years, it sounds like we're standing still, and nothing is really happening. And when it comes to self-driving cars, car manufacturers say that we have to wait until 2021 until we can actually get into a self-driving car and buy one. If you think about it, that was yesterday's hot new trends. On the left, you have Google Wave. That was Google's way of reinventing email, kind of quirky and fun in some way. Microsoft Skin in the middle. You may not remember that. It was a phone that Microsoft developed right after the iPhone came out, and it felt like fantastically, really. And there's iTunes Ping, obviously, the social network by Apple. These trends sound like fun. It's like they're trying new things, something special, something insecure. They don't know if it's going to work or not, but it sounds like they're trying at least, and they're not just copying each other. They're trying to reinvent email, for instance, or a new form factor for a phone. I kind of miss this time, to be honest. So you must think you should go to Las Vegas, CES, and see new devices so that I get excited. Let me tell you a story. So 18 months ago, approximately, I was in a hotel room. Usually when you go to CES, tech companies, they like to do briefings with journalists a few days before the show. So NVIDIA invited me to a hotel room in the middle of the day with a couple of other journalists so that I could try VR headsets, the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. That was way before they were even released on the market, so it was something new, something exciting. The journalists in the room weren't really excited about it though, but I was excited about trying these new devices. So I tried the Oculus Rift and I played a video game called Adrift. It was a space simulation game, so you float in space in like the International Space Station. After literally 30 seconds, I start sweating and I realize that I'm getting sick because of VR. So when people ask me what's exciting about the future, I tell them that we were promised flying cars, but all I got was a tummy ache because of VR, and I felt awful for the rest of the day. I didn't vomit, but I felt awful. So this is what I call tech fatigue. For me, this is a signal, something to pay attention to. I should pay attention to my brain telling me there are these innovations that I find boring or silly or derivative. Why is that? How do I fix that? What makes me excited about tech in the first place? And last year, I met the guy on the left, Walt Mossberg, along with Kara Swisher. They're probably the most famous tech journalists out there. He just retired, and he told me that he was still excited about tech when I talked with him last year. So in my brain, I'm like, I'm young. I shouldn't even feel tech fatigue if this guy has been covering tech for like 30 years and still feels excited about tech. So to understand my tech fatigue, I tried to go back and look back at where I'm coming from and why I'm a geek in the first place and why I care about tech. So this is me when I was around 3 years old. There's a reason why I'm showing you this picture. It's because, as you can see, I'm about to cut 3 fingers off my right hand because I'm pretty bad with knives. So ever since this accident, I stopped using knives and I started focusing on using a keyboard. And that's because of my dad. My dad was probably the guy who put me in front of a computer before I could even start writing. And I knew how to type my name on a keyboard before I knew how to read, because my dad taught me which letter to type first, because he thought it was something funny, I guess. He was a computer engineer, and one of the first ones in France. He started developing with a pen and paper, so he would write code in a notebook, and then hand it out to an operator who would print the code on punched cards like this one, and you would feed these punched cards into giant computers. I don't know how many lines of code you could store on this, but probably a dozen, I don't know. Not much. And this is how they used to develop. So of course he knew a lot about computers. And he told me, okay, you gotta learn computers. He really wanted me to become an engineer, so he told me how to launch applications on the computer by looking at the icon, because I didn't know how to read. And he told me, okay, the icon like this is if you want to launch this game and things like that. And I asked him a ton of questions. What is an IP address, object-oriented programming, etc., etc. That was when I was 10 or 12 years old. And he was so excited to answer these questions because he really wanted me to get it. And that's how I got my technical knowledge that literally drove me into tech. But he also told me some strong values. He put this poster right next to the computer. This is a famous New Yorker cartoon. It says, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. So it means that you don't really know who you're talking with, like if you're chatting with someone you don't know. Could be anyone, really. Maybe somebody could say, I'm 18 years old. Could be somebody who is 50 years old. But he also said that it meant that the internet is a land of opportunity, a land of freedom, a land where everything is possible. And I truly believe that's real, because the internet is a land where you can do a lot of things with just a computer and internet connection. And he also told me about privacy way before Edward Snowden made some important revelations. I remember back in 2004 when Google announced Gmail, he said, okay, this is a great service and I'm sure you're going to use it at some point, but just realize that Google can read everything you write in Gmail. And then a few years later, Edward Snowden said that it was actually the case. And he passed away a bit too early, and I still miss him every day. And a few weeks ago, I even found some research paper that he wrote in the 90s about natural language processing, artificial intelligence. That was like in 94, something like that. It's crazy to think that even back then we were talking about AI like it's the next big thing. But I've always been more passionate about writing. So I didn't become a computer scientist. I focused on writing. And I met this guy who is probably the guy who is the reason why I'm on stage today. He works at TechCrunch, and he hired me as an intern because I kept asking him, please, please hire me. I don't know anything about writing, but I think I can learn. And he did hire me, and 1,500 posts later, here I am. And he told me something very important as well, that the job as a journalist is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. It's all about sharing information that remains private, because if the information becomes public, you can use it to learn new things, and it's very important. And it's all about helping someone who needs help and calling out people who are doing bad things, basically. And I still think about this motto every day. So you might be wondering why I'm telling all these boring stories. It's because I think mentors are something very important. They are the ones who are going to tell you what you should do in life. They're going to help you, give you a leg up. And everybody, literally everybody can be a mentor. And look around you. Find someone who is passionate about the same things as you, but maybe a bit younger, a bit behind when it comes to knowledge, and tell them, I can help you. I can make introductions. I can help you work in this industry. So a few years ago, somebody asked me, why do I care about tech? And I didn't have a proper answer back then. But I think everybody working in the tech industry should ask themselves this question, because it's very important. Just like a VC has, an investment strategy, an investment thesis, I think every employee, every founder should think about why they care about tech. So here are the things I'm excited about. I think tech is a human industry. Tech has a positive impact in the long run, and tech is all about helping other people find their way around. So let's go through these points one by one. So when I say tech is a human industry, when you think about it, the exciting thing about tech is that it has allowed anyone to talk with anyone else at the other side of the world, using your phone in your pocket, using your computer, in a matter of seconds. You can send a message on WhatsApp or whatever, and you can communicate and even meet new people using the internet. I made a few friends on Twitter, which sounds a bit weird, but I guess I spend too much time on Twitter, that's why. The internet is also a great way to share information, obviously, and learn. I think TechCrunch's main mission is to find the kid in high school who lives in a small village and doesn't know anyone who works in tech, and tell this kid that this kid can work in tech if she or he wants to work in tech. It's all about learning new things on the internet and having the right motivation, I guess. And when you think about it, tech companies have had a huge impact on billions of people. When I say that tech is a good thing over the long run, it's because I'm more or less positive about that. When you think about it, there was the Airbnb French director on stage earlier today. He was very excited about Airbnb, obviously, but it has some real impacts on the fabric of the cities we live in, because it drives the rent up. So many apartments in Paris are not even available anymore to rent because they are like full-time Airbnb apartments. It's the same in all major cities around the world, and it's become a big issue. I don't think that it's on purpose, but now they have to take care of that because tech swallowed everything. Tech is now basically like the economy at large. And the tech industry in particular is a meritocracy, because anybody, like the kid in high school, can work in the tech industry. But it's a good thing and a bad thing, because when you think about it, it's excluding new people as well, because you have to learn the lingo, you have to learn some market data to know which startup is up and coming and which one is going to fail. You have to learn new skills that you didn't learn in school. And there's a steep learning curve. But you should help people around you to find their way around, because that's what I told you earlier about being a mentor. It's something very important and that I care about. So obviously, you shouldn't pay attention to my advice, because I never built any company. And I'm sure many of you are much smarter than me. And I probably sound like a cranky old man, even though I'm young. But I spend most of my days in front of this computer on this very desk, writing articles after articles. So the only thing I'm good at is hiding behind this keyboard and writing articles. And from this point of view, what I see is that there are a few warning signs. As I said, I'm very optimistic about tech. But we're at a turning point, as you can see, like with what's happening with immigration around the world. It's time to build companies that bring people together. And I think it's very important that tech entrepreneurs realize the power that they have. It's not just like an economic power. Of course, many of you are going to become rich, but it's also a political power. When you think about it, Mark Zuckerberg is probably more powerful than Emmanuel Macron, because he can influence the opinion of more than 1.5 billion people or something. And the tech fatigue that I was telling you about, I think it's a great bullshit indicator. When I say that I don't care about VR, it's probably a good warning sign. It probably means that VR is never going to be huge. And you can write it down somewhere. Maybe I'm going to be wrong in 10 years. But I don't think VR is ever going to be huge. I know many of you are excited about that. But if something feels dumb, it's probably dumb. So my one piece of advice is that you should build technology and companies that make humans talk to each other. It's time to embrace the social change that we can bring through startups and not just the economic change. So let's be kind to one another. Thank you.